It is Saturday. It is Jodi Arias Day. We left off Tuesday with Jodi in prison suit and the interviewer more or less fed up with her and confronted her with everything. So how this will continue today will be really, really, really interesting. And as always, you might see that David is not here at the moment. And so I might have a bit of a surprise for you. But first, housekeeping. You all know this, but in case you're new, like, subscribe to both me and David. We are dual streaming this, so it's shown on both channels. Neither of us mind super chats. I prefer that you become a member. It's $3 a month and gives you access to members-only content and Discord. And I believe same with David. Okay, that was housekeeping. Now, David may or may not be a bit preoccupied, so we got a replacement. And that replacement is... Hey, Solomon. Sound.
Oh, Boomer. How you doing, Nicholas?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was just in a stream watching with David this morning, and he suggested that I pop in. Now, I'm not claiming that I will ever fill David's shoes, but here I am. I have watched a documentary about Jodi Arias, as it turns out, so I'm at least familiar with the case, which may help.
Yeah, that's really good because I'm learning as we go along. The only thing I knew about this was that I recognized a few of the crime scene photos. That's it. I didn't know anything about the three-hole wonder or defense attorney being disbarred, that the prosecutor a few years later may or may not have been involved in some shenanigans not related to this trial. But so far this trial has shown me that this is a decade ago, and the differences that we see in the police investigation in this trial and how they present the evidence, how it's a clear red line in it. Yeah, and it makes me even more furious watching the Zachariah Anderson trial, knowing that there are good prosecutors out there and there are horrible ones out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the police did an outstanding job in Jodi's case. You know, they really had to put pieces together and figure out exactly where she was when she doubled down on the lie over and over again. And she was stone-faced through those interrogations, which was actually kind of frightening after what she had done to him, as was depicted on the pictures that was recovered off the camera that they found, right? So because she had put it in the washing machine to try and destroy it, something like that.
Yeah, and had she not left it there, she might even have gotten away with it.
Yeah,
because that was the only thing that actually linked her to the crime scene.
Yep. Yeah,
Everything else was
she was clever in every other way. Legitimately, she, even not stopping anywhere for gas, she filled gas cans. Like she stole the firearm from her grandparents. Like there was some stuff that she did that is terrifying, well thought out. She's not a dumb person, and she had no remorse.
Yeah, and two mistakes: the camera, and she made herself. She involved herself in the investigation, because the photo of her foot in an Adidas pants or something like that in itself is not evidence of anything.
Nope.
Until she inserted herself. So it was an excellent investigation. Thank you, Lefty. for $5 super chat on David's channel, of course, the man who isn't here. No worries. I got Lou Hillier, Psych, new member on my channel, and Chris Mullen. I think that he is rejoining as a member. That is very nice, and very, very nice. Thank you so much, all of you. And I also saw a members chat, maybe somewhere, didn't I? No, I'm having 3 chat windows opened. One for David, one for me, and one for Rumble. Yes, I'm streaming this on Rumble.
Oh.
And David is also streaming this on Facebook. So we are streaming it to 4 locations. So you can't avoid us anywhere. No.
At least we know that YouTube can't demonetize and strip it off the internet. So,
yep, that's a good thing. And yeah, let's see here. I saw David was in briefly before the stream, but he was driving. He might show up a bit. I don't know. Couldn't really hear him because he was breaking up. But I see him in the chat, in his chat, on my chat. I saw him before. Yeah, and let's see here. Should we just get on with it? Yes, get on with it.
Fire, fart, and dragon. Let's roll in.
Oh! Thank you, Lefty. $10 for me. Hey, one for Nick. David blows run him out of the Discord on the rail. Thank you so much, Lefty. Much appreciated. So let's see here. We were roughly 50 minutes left of part 1. I have part 2 lined up, which is roughly 50 minutes. So a combined hour, 15 minutes of stream with talk and stuff of us is what to expect today. Yeah, I think Jen appreciates them. Yeah.
She puts up with me. That's the start. I'll accept her love of my dimples if she puts up with my BS as well.
Jen, you're a gem. Let's just say that. Let's see. You can blame me and the expert if David is tired. Yeah. Now I was on I was on Jeff's stream yesterday or this morning, and I had to. It was I believe it was close to 5:30 a.m. when I just had to leave.
Oh geez, yeah.
I was so tired. So yeah, Jan is amazing. Yeah, there he is, David. Farrell is going to. He is making demands. Let's see if Farrell. Yeah, let's see. Or is Farrell might go though. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. It is fly and mosquito season is starting in Sweden. So I got one of these. Electrified racket.
It's an electric racket, so you can catch them in the air, right? So
yeah. And now I know that Jamie is very, very jealous of me because she and her problems with horse flies and stuff. She really wishes that she has one of these. So if you see me swinging about with this, it's because it's
I'll
a farm.
you how I kill horse flies. Well, deer flies, not horse flies. What later? We can get to the Jodi Arias stream, but there's a trick.
Okay. Yeah. And if you stay the entire stream, you will find out. Haha. Now let's get on with it. Let's make there. So yeah, here's Jodi Arias. We saw her in the interrogation room, and she was not happy. So let's see what's going on now. Unmute. Boosted sound.
I should indicate I don't have any other questions at this time.
Yeah, that is the family of Travis. Sadly, a situation being related to someone in a trial is not easy, and I believe that you can attest to it.
While since you and I talked, we've seen numerous clips throughout the past few days. Before we talk about what we saw on those clips, I want to go back to some of the things we discussed, or you discussed with Mr. Martinez a while back.
We'll have to ask Jan.
You and I had talked about your interview with Miss Arias on the 15th of July. Remember talking to me about that?
Yeah. This is Jodi Arias' defense attorney. He later on wrote a tell-all book about Jodi and the trial. So he got disbarred. Then she sued him for the money he got. And I can't find the court documents for that lawsuit, how it ended. It might have ended in a settlement.
I mean, if he breached confidentiality, I mean, she had every right to do that. You know, how incredibly unprofessional that would be.
Yeah.
But he looks pregnant. Yeah, yes, Woody. Yeah, he's carrying a small beer baby, I think. But
yeah.
We'll see. So it wasn't just the defense attorney that released a book. Wasn't there another book that was with the pictures and the discovery that were posted in the trial?
I'm not sure. I do know the prosecutor also released a book, but that was not maybe 7, 8, not until 2015, when by then the prosecutor was also disbarred for an unrelated issue.
I see.
But that was a bit, let's see, it was around the time she had her appeals denied.
Yeah, a prosecutor that released the book with the pictures of the crime scene, because David had pulled up some pictures of the crime scene from the book that were in better detail, right?
Yeah. Are we getting Niklas? No, I would appreciate it, but I'm monetized since a few months. I do appreciate if you have 2 tabs open, so you can mute one and watch the other. That would be very, very nice. And yes, this defense attorney, he is extraordinary mellow today. Normally, he's quite bright, so to speak. There's a whole bunch of pictures in day 6, part 2. Yes. The original court stream made a bit of a mistake on day 6. Instead of blocking out the pictures and just having sound, they did the reverse. They blocked the sound and showed Jodi Arias in all her glory. Yeah, and Travis. So yeah, and that day is 18 plus on both of our channels. Yeah, so
you guys covered that just was that last week or the week before, something like that?
We are at day 8, part 2 here, so it must have been 6 or 7 episodes ago. So there's Jodi Arias and Yeah, the three-hole wonder, as Travis called her. Yeah. Thank you for your $2 super chat, Bass. Much appreciated. But let's continue.
Yes, I do.
Okay. And we talked about some of the things that you said in there about Mr. Alexander portraying himself a certain way, but he's not. Do you remember us discussing that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And we also talk about referring to Mr. Alexander and Miss Arias, how they kept their relationship hidden from everybody else. Recall we talked about that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And one of the final things we talked about is that you had made the comment that maybe you were.
So, Miriam, this case is about this woman, Jodi Arias. She killed her boyfriend, or they were going through a breakup or something like that. He moved to Arizona, and they were having a fling. She drove all the way to Arizona from California to see him, sleep with him, and murder him because she was so obsessive about him. So just so you're aware, what someone she asked what this trial was about.
Okay.
It's the murder trial of that she had committed against her boyfriend Travis.
Yeah. They met at a multi-level marketing stuff or something like that. She then converted to Mormonism because Travis was Mormon, and they had a relationship that Travis was trying to keep secret because apparently she was not wife material. And there are quite a bit of evidence that he used her for sexual purposes.
Oh yeah.
They broke up eventually. Still saw each other, and she moved to California. Yeah, so he was staying in at the same place as always, I believe.
Oh, I
because
see.
he owned the house and had roommates, and then she drove there, had relations, stabby, shooty, drove off, and left the camera there.
During the visit, because she had driven through LA all the way back to Arizona, and then she had turned her phone off leaving Los Angeles and memorized the rest of the route. So she actually filled gas cans and brought them with to fill her car up as she drove from California, Arizona, and then they had relations. They took photographs throughout the whole thing, and then she stabbed him in the shower. She dragged him out after he was probably agonal breathing. Dragged him out into his bedroom, shot him there, and then dragged him back to the bathroom, I believe. And the camera took photos of this as it happened, because the camera had fell under the bed, and had snapped some photographs of her as she was pulling his body around.
Yeah, and I believe they counted 17 stab wound and 1 gunshot wound. He was almost decapitated.
Yeah.
So those autopsy photos has not been shown in this trial. I have no interest in showing them. The only autopsy photos shown in this trial so far is a hand and a foot. That's it.
So a picture of her foot with the shadow of his body behind it, and then there's a bloody handprint, I believe, on the bathroom sink, which matches her bloody handprint.
No, it was
on the wall.
A palm imprint on the wall that they
that's
could match somehow. But yeah, so but to this day, no, at her hearing, because she started blaming everybody else. On the last episode, she blamed masked people who somehow just killed Travis, but spared her because if there's anything you know about hired hitmen of sort, is that they leave witnesses. Yeah, it's
It was the ninjas, remember?
it was the ninjas. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She is the original Letitia Stalk.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Whew. Yeah, she left the camera in the washer because she thought that the water would damage the camera's memory, but they were able to recover the pictures. Yeah.
Yep.
And had she just taken the camera and tossed it somewhere? Yeah.
Yep.
She was
Just out in the desert or in the mountains.
Yeah,
on
she
the-
was
on the way back to-
extremely clever in planning everything out, but not clever enough. So this is an example of a really, really good trial. Now, I do believe the autopsy photo part of this trial is done by now. Don't know if it will show up in the defense case in chief, but so it's basically safe. I think I haven't seen a lot of it ahead. Let's continue with the defense attorney's cross-examination. Okay, he approached. Everybody approached. Okay. I'm speeding ahead. Okay.
And Detective, a few days back, we also talked about your comment to Ms. Arias that you were just going there to have a good time and something got out of hand, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, after we talked about that, Mr. Martinez talked to you about techniques, interview techniques, interrogation techniques.
Hi, Jamie.
So that's kind of what I want to talk to you a little bit about. As you've said, I believe 19 years with the police department, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you've been trained in interview techniques?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And you've been trained in interrogation techniques?
Yes, it's the same thing.
Okay. So you would label them all the same thing?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And what label would you use, interview or interrogation?
Some courses are labeled both interview and interrogation. Some courses are just interviews.
Okay. What sort of training then in your years with the Mesa Police Department have you had regarding interviews? I'll just say well, we'll go interviews and interrogation.
When I first became a detective, I took an interview and interrogation course, about 30 hours. It was a basic course. And then I, soon after that, took an interview course. It's more advanced, 12 hours or so.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Okay. And before you became a detective, were there courses in the academy on interviewing, that sort of thing?
Yes, there are. There are some basic courses in the academy on how to contact people and how to interview people, yes.
Okay. And I suspect as well, even though we use the words interview and interrogation, you said they're about the same. There's got to be a difference in the kind of interview you're conducting if you're, say, talking to a witness versus talking to a suspect, right?
Yes, there are differences.
Okay. Could you explain that to us?
Well, obviously, when you're talking to a witness, you're trying to extract information that they saw or remembered. Interrogation is more so talking to somebody who's suspected of a crime.
Okay. So tell us then, well, these techniques that you discussed, are those different than in the type of interview in terms of the interview versus the interrogation?
Yes, a little different.
A little different. Okay. And why are they different?
Just because of the nature of what they are. You're talking to a witness or someone who's accused of something.
Okay.
It's going to be different,
And why?
just for the reasons I said.
Well, let me ask you this then. In terms of somebody being a suspect versus somebody just being a witness, is there a concern that somebody who's a suspect is going to be a little less forthcoming with information?
Yes, that's obvious. Yes.
Okay. And that there may be a concern that they're not telling the truth, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So going back to these techniques that you were talking to Mr. Martinez about, claiming that these things were techniques, what specific techniques can you point to in terms of your interrogation that you would classify your comments as?
In this particular case, every case is different. In this case, you use evidence. Sometimes you could say, hey, I saw your fingerprint there, or I know your fingerprints were there. Maybe they really weren't there. Those are some techniques that you use.
Okay. Well, what technique were you using then when you said maybe you're going there to have a good time with him and something got out of hand? What technique is that?
That's usually what we call a theme. As you're talking to somebody, as you research their backgrounds, you kind of get a somewhat of an understanding of what their life is like and what relationships are like, and you develop a theme in that case.
Okay.
And that's the technique.
Okay. And as it relates to Mr. Alexander portraying himself a different way, and he's not really that type of guy, what kind of theme would that be, or what kind of technique would that be?
I was kind of playing on her emotions at that time.
You saw her as emotional?
No, not really.
Okay. But you were playing on it, despite the fact that you said you didn't see it, right?
I was hoping.
Okay.
Yes.
And about the relationship being hidden from everyone else, your claim was that's a technique as well.
Yes.
And what technique is that?
Same technique. I was hoping to play on her emotions.
Okay. Now,
I think it's really
when it relates to,
I think it's really interesting that the difference in interrogation with American detectives versus Canadian detectives, for example. Canadian detectives aren't allowed to lie to the suspect. So in this case, where he cited that they use this strategy where they tell someone that they found the fingerprints when they never did, that's not legal to do in Canada, and they still get people to confess.
Yeah, and same in Sweden. You are not allowed to lie in an interrogation, and also in Sweden it is still somewhat illegal. They have done some changes lately with what do you call it? Where you incite someone to commit a crime. What do you call it? Our cops can't act as drug dealers.
Right. To do like undercover stuff to try and bait somebody into a crime. Yeah.
Yeah, they can go undercover, but they cannot engage in baiting to a crime.
Sure. Entrapment. That's it.
Entrapment. Thank you.
Yeah.
The chat is on top of things. But then again, they are undercover. There are no recordings. So, or somehow the recording equipment failed at that time. Yeah. So, yeah, it's somewhat being it's being done. And yes, there are there is closed captions, so I'll put them on.
and it's obvious from the words you said when Miss Arias told you about the intruders, you didn't believe her, correct?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of interrogation in those suspects, have you been trained on how to discern deception, or that there's indicators of deception?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that.
during the same courses that I've taken. There's certain things that people do when they're deceptive. They turn away a certain way. They play with their clothes a lot. They you can tell when they're reaching in the back of their mind to try to find something to tell you.
Okay. And I believe that you said that within 30 seconds to a minute, you could discern those sort of patterns. Is that right?
I don't remember saying that.
Okay. Let me ask you this. How many, and I'm sure I'm not expecting an exact number, but how many interrogations have you conducted over the years?
I don't really remember.
Hundreds?
Yes.
Thousands?
Maybe hundreds, thousands.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Now, when you talk about indicators of deception, you talked about really nonverbal indicators, what you just told me. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
You're talking about nonverbal indicators. Okay. Are there verbal indicators? Meaning in terms of what they tell you?
Could be.
Okay. Let me ask, based on your training and experience, is there, when people lie, is there, generally speaking, based on your training, an effort to throw a little truth in there to make the lie more believable?
By American standards, this guy, this cop seems to be one of the good ones, but then he is trained in the same system. So
I mean, there's of course some jade, that people will have some taint to the system that someone will have, but as far as how he's carrying himself, how he's answering the questions, that he's not dodging, he's not being evasive in his answers. He's trying to, as earnestly as possible, present information that they ask. So
yeah,
I agree. He appears to be a good cop that's trying to do his job.
yeah. Can he transfer to Kenosha County?
Maybe they can hire him instead of Anschutz.
Yeah. Detective, yeah.
It has to be plausible, right? From the lie's perspective, he or she is trying to get you to say something or believe something plausible, right?
Yes.
And your job then as a detective, I would imagine, is to kind of sort out some of that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's also a bit why I am covering this, why me and David is covering this. Right? First of all, it's an infamous trial where millions of people checked in on this trial. And both me and David also want to show how a trial should be conducted. Because the last year, the trials we all have seen, majority, almost all of them, except maybe the Starow trial that I have watched, has been shady AF.
Yeah, that's a good point, David. Just like a very straightforward presentation of evidence where they're not trying to infer or hint at things to try and mislead the jury. It was here is our case.
Yeah.
This is what we have. This is why she's guilty. And that's important because that's really the intent of the way the law is written in the justice system, to really present the facts, present what the case that you have, and prove beyond reasonable doubt that the person that you've accused of the crime committed it.
Yeah, and they are not asking for the jury to connect dots. They are actively, here's that dot. Here is the passage to this dot. They are going through everything in an orderly way, not jumping around in an attempt to confuse not hint or allege or no maybes. This trial is good. It's a good standard. Now, I do know that defense attorney and Miss Arias really didn't like each other, but he is still doing his job. And the prosecutor is a bit yelly for my taste, but he's doing a good job.
Less yelly than gravely.
No, this prosecutor is he sounds a bit angry at everyone. So yeah.
Oh, you mean angry? I just mean just like being loud and obnoxious in the
Yeah.
courtroom.
No, just he is loudy and a bit angry in the courtroom at everyone, whilst Gravely was. I'm only 37 minutes in. Let me try to do an impression. Ladies and gentlemen. No, I can't do it. I can't do that pitchy, screamy voice.
It's too nasally for you. Yeah, I don't think you can pull it off.
Yeah, and this trial has good sound. Amazing. A decade ago.
Now, in one of your answers, there was some discussion about you attempted to find a handgun or knife, and you didn't find one. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Were there knives recovered
Yes,
at the Alexander home?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And what sort of knives did you recover?
Kitchen knives.
Okay. How many, do you know?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
Several, a set, perhaps?
A set, there was a kitchen block that was
Okay.
taken. There were knives in the washing, in the wash at that time, the
Okay.
dishwasher.
And none of those will be determined to be evidence related to this crime?
We couldn't determine if they were the ones used or not.
Okay. And you said, before we get back to the interviews, you talked about you searched in the yard for the gun, for any evidence, I guess, but any weapon, right?
All around the residence, in and out.
The front yard, backyard area?
Yes.
Okay. What about the neighborhood?
We really didn't have anywhere to go.
Okay.
No.
Neighbor's yard, anything like that? You didn't look there?
Everything in the immediate area.
Okay. All right.
We looked at.
Well, let's talk about the interviews then. On July 15th, you felt as if you had enough evidence to arrest Miss Arias, correct?
Yes.
And in that regard, then, maybe complete isn't the most accurate word, but you had a fairly complete investigation, correct?
Up to that point, yes.
Up to that point, okay. Now, if I need to refresh your recollection with the videos, we can do that. But one of the first, well, you watched several, but we had one video that really centered around a period of time when you and Miss Arias were conversing about the advantages of her moving to Mesa, or her move to Mesa. She spoke about some of the advantages. Do you remember seeing that video a couple days ago?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And in that video, she made a comment to the effect that Travis told her that they could still hang out if she moved in Mesa. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And did you in your investigation later determine hanging out being a code for having sex?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay. And the other thing that was interesting about that tape was that it cut off right about the time Miss Arias was talking about Lisa. She made a comment, she didn't know about him and Lisa, referring to Travis and Lisa. Do you recall that?
I don't recall that specifically. No, I don't.
Reviewing Exhibit 351, refresh your recollection, Detective.
Sure.
May we approach?
Okay, they are approaching.
Back in the designated area at 1:25, and we will start promptly at 1:30. Please remember the admonition. You are excused. Have a nice lunch.
See if they have anything to say. Apparently not. Okay. That would bring us to this part. And unmute. There. And yeah. Not much during this part. It's a cross-examination. He tries to make it sound like I'm not really sure if it did anything. I don't know if you watched any of this, but the prosecution, I believe this is the fourth time this officer has been on the stand, because he has been the lead interviewer, did much of the leading in the case. So that's a part of the red line in this case, that he brings on the different people involved in the investigation as a red line. So he brings back the coroner, he brings back this officer, he brings back other people, just to make everything in a good timeline. And he's doing it really, really well. And so this defense attorney, he does what he can. So yeah. But let's see where it brings us on part this. Let's see here. Ahead a bit.
She looks like a cat lady. She'd be Sal's type.
Jodi Arias sadly has aged very well in prison. She is now in her 40s, 44 or 45, and she looks good for a 45-year-old, and that's a bit... and she has a boyfriend in jail. Well, he is outside of jail, but she has a boyfriend, but there are no private visits.
Huh. Good for her. I mean, I don't think she's getting out any day soon, so I don't know what purpose that serves.
No. Youngmin, it's best to Twitter DM me. I go through them, my DMs, at least once a day.
Yeah, he doesn't respond well on Discord at all, unfortunately.
Let's bring in the jury.
I'm not good at Discord much. Jeez.
Presence presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. Mr. Nurmi, you may continue with.
Thank you, John Gordon, for your super chat.
And Judge, is the screen on?
Yes.
Detective, when we, before we broke for the lunch break, we were about to talk about Exhibit 351. I asked you about the tail end of that, and you needed your recollection refreshed on that, and I'm going to play that for you now, okay?
Okay.
Let's move to after the breakup.
Oh, okay.
What kept you in Mesa at that point?
They even have decent sound on the recordings. It's
I mean,
amazing.
the way they have it set up,
I actually moved to,
they have a small monitor where he's playing it on the screen
Yeah.
at the top. It's actually a pretty good setup for 10 years ago.
Yeah. And the setup wasn't as decent in Zach's trial.
No, but the courthouse was built in like the early 1900s, and they were going through a process of renovating the courtroom. So Zach's trial, it was like everything was torn apart. There's a section of the ceiling down and all kinds of stuff. They're restoring it to like its old glory. So it was going through a restoration and some updates. So
Yeah, but that shouldn't have affected the. I mean, still using the overhead machine, as we call them here. I mean, yeah, I believe that way some of the evidence that Nicole tried to show got a bit lost in translation, especially the DNA stuff.
yeah. Well, the
And,
bright side is that we uploaded a bunch of stuff that that they had presented and not presented. They were public files on the website. So
well,
if you want to go check out the Lisa Treffinger's report, it's actually on the freezacharianderson.org website.
okay, good. I have some spare time next week because the trial I'm covering will probably end on Monday, and then it is jury waiting for the jury to come back. So that could be a good thing to cover next week.
Sure.
Yeah. But let's hear here.
Let's move to after the breakup.
oh, okay.
What kept you in Mesa at that point?
I actually moved to Mesa a few weeks after we broke up.
Really?
hmm I mean, as far as the timeline goes. But, I mean, if you want to call it our official breakup, shortly thereafter, it's like we were still seeing each
So
other.
you guys were seeing each other, but it was a long distance type relationship.
It was always long distance when we were officially dating. We dated from about the beginning of February to about the end of June. So February, March, April, May, June, about 5 months total.
Okay. In June of 2007, you guys broke up, and then you
June
moved to
29th.
Mesa.
Yeah, I moved to Mesa sort of.
Most people, when they break up, they kind of go their
I
own
know,
way.
and plans were already in order for me to move there. I was already speaking with a friend who was, was going to be her roommate, and I was her roommate for a short time. She's kind of flighty. She's a great girl, though. I had talked to Travis about maybe going to Southern California instead, and he's really persuasive.
He persuaded you to stay there in Mesa.
He kind of was playing up all the advantages if I did come to Mesa, and if I did, he said, it's a great place. We could still see each other and hang out on occasion. This church is very strong. You'll make a lot of friends. And I already knew all this stuff prior because we talked about that. And so I went ahead and just made the move. It sounded at the time like a good idea.
And you guys continued to kind of see each other at that time?
Yeah, at the time I was sort of living more across town over by Greenfield. Do you know where that is?
Yeah.
It was up Greenfield near Broadway. Greenfield and Broadway were the nearest cross streets. And that's where the girl that I was originally talking with, I moved in with her.
Yeah, it's kind of far
Yeah,
from child place.
yeah. The thing about her, and just to give you a background of why I moved suddenly, she approached me the weekend after I got there and said, hey, she knocked on my door, can I talk to you for a second? I said, sure. And she moved in with her boyfriend, and they were engaged.
Okay.
And she
Hi,
said,
Valhalla.
I just wanted to let you know that Scott and I went to Vegas last weekend to tie the knot. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, we haven't told anyone, but we didn't want to live in sin. So we're gonna, and she had already been sealed in the temple once and was waiting for her cancel.
Her sealing to be
Yeah, to be canceled.
Starow.
So they were gonna have a civil wedding on the beach in Oregon. And they did that the following weekend. She told me that on a Monday or Tuesday. It was the beginning of the week. And she said, the reason I'm telling you that is because I'm getting married this weekend. And I have to go out of town a few days ahead of Scott, make arrangements. And now that he's a married man, we don't feel it's right that you would be here in the house.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want to inconvenience you, but is there any way you could stay with somebody else or just find another place? At the time I was waiting on a house in Gilbert because I already knew they were getting married, so I was kind of looking anyway. And there was a great girl named Brenda, and she was waiting on her keys for the mortgage to go through, and it was a great ward, it was a great house, and it was brand new. Construction and all that was really nice, but she didn't get her keys for months and months. I think she's in the house now, but I don't know, I haven't talked to her. So I scrambled. I went to the Institute, I wrote down a bunch of phone numbers, I called them all, a lot of them, I got voicemails. One girl that answered, her name was Tiffany, and she knew Travis. And she was at his services in Arizona and as well, and we've just remained friends sort of like on MySpace and Facebook and that kind of thing. But she said, hey, sorry, that's an outdated posting, I forgot to take it down, but go to this website. So ldshousing.net, I went there. I made 3 phone calls for the places that were within my price range. I didn't think to look where they were. The one girl that called me back, her name was Shannon Darricott. She said, here's my place, here's the directions, go ahead and go out and come see the house. It was available, so we did.
Oh, go ahead.
You have to get that?
No.
Okay. So I moved out there, and when Travis found out it was so close to him, he freaked out about it. And I made sure to check that it wasn't, that we wouldn't be in the same ward. And it was within his ward boundaries, but it was also within another singles ward boundary. So of course I'm gonna go the other ward, because it would just be kind of weird. I mean, I didn't know about him and Lisa at first.
Yeah. She's extremely talkative, and she refers to timeline. And the cops pick up on these things. It's not that hard to pick up.
I mean, it
But-
kind of jumps out at you. Why would this, just citizen, this random person, start using, terms like that? It raises suspicion.
Mm. Yeah. Let's go.
She was talkative, and I mean, she had a good story that she had worked out. She had planned this ahead and what she was going to say and how she was going to present it. So for her, it was like it was the stage for her to present her excuse. So she did that. And that's one of the reasons why I think the interrogation is so jarring, so disturbing, is because she really does present in a way that's almost unshakable the entire time.
Yeah. And and that is one of the things that was her downfall, is that she couldn't wait for the cops to contact her. She actively contacted the cops to start giving this story of hers. And that's far too not an evidence in itself, but it raises suspicion enough for them to, okay, we need to look into this. Because before she started calling, they had no idea. It wasn't until they started to ask around with the friends. Now, some friends had already started, well, they always thought that Jodi was weird, a bit clingy and stuff like that. But had she just shut up, gone to her new boyfriend and waited and kept the camera, tossed it along the way in a trash bin or something, she had every moment to actually commit more or less the perfect murder.
Yeah, I mean, had she just taken it back to California and
Mm.
lost it in a mountain pass, and then never contacted anyone, that had anything to do with the crime, she probably would have walked away.
Do we know another person who could not help insert themselves into a police investigation? Yeah, 4 people who just happened to show up, or 2 people. Yeah, a good cop could have chosen to look at it as a, oh, this is suspicious. Why is everybody pointing over there?
Hmm.
Let's check that out, what they're pointing at, but we kind of need to look at these people as well. Oh, what do you say? You did have a rug and you didn't want to sell it or give it away. You just had to get it to another state dump to get rid of it.
The Pheasant Run was in Wisconsin, so it was not outside
Okay.
the state. But
Okay.
But yeah, there's that. I mean, also Narita Masias came forward and contacted the police, and oddly enough, used her work email with the court, because she works as a clerk, or worked as a clerk in the Milwaukee County Court system as well, to communicate with police officers, which is sort of like name dropping, right? Like you use that work email to make it seem, I don't know. There's just some stuff that it's on our website now, but you can check it out.
Yeah, it is very telling. And David is going to have a stream later today, I think, about the Denny motion. Now, I've skimmed through it, and I might do a bit. Yeah, I might. I have plenty of, not plenty of time, but I do have some time next week to go through it as well, to make more aware of it. Even though I know me and David roughly have the same audience and members and stuff like that, it might kick the YouTube algorithm in a better gear to make more people aware of the travesty that is the Zachariah Anderson trial. But we are here for Jodi, and it's 40 minutes.
Refresh your recollection, Detective?
Yes.
What was said? Okay. At the very end there, she says she didn't know about him and Lisa. Did you hear that?
Yes, I heard that.
Okay. Based on your investigation, who is that reference to?
Might have been a girlfriend, I guess, of Travis's or something.
Does the name Lisa Andrews ring a bell?
That sounds familiar.
Okay. She was interviewed in part of your investigation, right?
I don't remember. She might have been. We talked to a lot of people.
Okay. You talked about.
Well, yes,
other
today,
witnesses
but I
talked
mean,
about this
generally.
mysterious email that she received, so you don't remember talking to her now? This so-called threatening email, tire slashing, you don't remember that now?
Yes, I do remember.
Okay, okay. And that was Lisa Andrews, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And in your investigation, you came to understand that Mr. Alexander, and I'll use the word was dating Miss Andrews and Miss Arias at the same time. Is that correct?
I don't remember the specifics. You're going to have to talk to Lisa about that.
Don't remember. Okay.
That was a bit evasive because he did date both of them at the same time. There was a bit of an
We
overlap.
also saw you in the course of these.
The reality is that the defense attorney could have handled that better by, refreshing his recollection, doing something like that to present something to him, like, here, this is your report. Here's to refresh your recollection, and then to push the topic a little bit harder. But he just sort of let it go, which is kind of a ball dropping, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Interviews.
That is the
Said-
prosecutor.
You told Miss Arias that you don't think she planned it, something got out of control, correct?
Yes,
Is that more technique?
yes. it
Chalking
is.
that up to technique, okay. You also said you do not see a cold-blooded murder. Again, is that going to be technique?
Yes, it is.
During one of these interviews, or your interview on the 15th, one of the clips, Miss Arias said to you, no reason she would ever want to hurt Travis, harm Travis. And your comment was, I don't think you ever wanted to. More technique?
Yes,
Okay. Now, these techniques, they're very specific for interrogations, correct?
they're not too specific. No.
Well, they're for interviewing and interrogating suspects, right? It's a little, we talked about the difference.
Yes,
It's techniques that you employ on a suspect.
yes,
Okay. So when you were interviewed, and we talked earlier that you were interviewed by a news program, CBS 48 Hours, right?
yes,
Okay. And you would then have no need to employ any of these tactics when you're being interviewed by a reporter, right?
no,
Okay. So if you repeated some of these same techniques when you were engaged in that interview with CBS, or you said some of these things, that wouldn't be techniques, right?
no, it wouldn't be techniques.
No, it wouldn't be techniques. You'd have no reason to use it. So why would you say some of these same things?
Some of the techniques I believed. Some of them were
So
true
they're not all
beliefs that I
techniques.
believed.
They're not all techniques. Some of them are what you believed, right?
Techniques are some truths that you do believe. And at that point, when I was interviewing her, I was just kind of reaching at things. I didn't know where she was going with the story.
Okay. And
So of course I would reach out and try to figure out where she's coming from.
okay. And this interview you had with the correspondent from 48 Hours and CBS, that was subsequent to the July 15th and July 16th interviews you did with Miss Arias, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Several months, correct?
Yes.
I wanted to clear up something as well. You had several interviews with Miss Arias. We've heard snippets or portions of phone calls that began the day that you arrived on the scene or perhaps the day after, and many throughout the course of your investigation, right? Maybe
Yes.
half dozen or so?
I don't remember the exact number, but
That sound about
yeah,
right?
there's a few.
Okay. During any of those times, did she tell you that she worked at a place called Margaritaville?
I don't remember.
She told you all along, as she did in there, that she worked at a place called Casa Ramos. Isn't that correct?
I remember during one interview, she mentioned Casa Ramos.
Okay,
I'd never heard of it before. So.
okay. Now, going back to what we said before about your training on deception, before lunch, we talked about how there's an element of truth in a lie to make it plausible, right?
Yes.
Let me run back over then some of the things in this last snippet we saw over yesterday and today. She told you a story about intruders entering the home, right?
Yes, she did.
One male, one female, right?
Yes.
Okay. And during this story, and we heard her say that she ran into a closet, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we also heard her say that Travis was shot but still alive, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And she also mentioned, and she even physically indicated, that she got hit on the back of the head, right?
Yes.
And she also said that there was a knife involved and a gun involved, right?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And in her story of the two intruders, the female half was the aggressor, right? She did the shooting, she did a lot of the activity, right?
Yes, that's what she told me.
Okay. She also said that he was bleeding everywhere, right?
Yes,
And he being referring to Travis, right?
yes,
Okay. And she also said that she was wearing striped pants, right?
yes, she did.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I think
She
her
said she was
story,
scared, right?
the intent of her story is not just to end Travis, right? Like she had hatched this plan to murder Travis. But in this cover story, she's also trying to implicate the girl that he was seeing on the side or as well, so she could get a twofer. She wanted to ruin this other woman and make sure the police went after her and kill Travis for cheating on her. So, for what her motive really was, it was a twofer. If you're listening to it.
Yeah, and this attacker was her backup story. Once she understood that they found out that she was at the place, or the investigator lied or indicated innuendo, lied, whatever, that we know that he indicated that they knew she was there. Then she had a backup story.
Mm-hmm.
And the further along the police interview, and she's thought of a lot of this, but eventually you could almost hear the change in when she had to start to wing it. So it was a very thought out police interview by this officer.
Mm-hmm.
His conduct was almost, he mimicked her in tone and attitude as he went along. And that pulled out more and more out of a story, because I believe he was just waiting for when is the inconsistency, and try to pull her in that direction, try to pull her in the other direction, just to then re-ask some old question. It was a really good interview.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely, he could write the book on keeping a witness talking, right? And
Yeah.
because as long as they're willing to keep feeding you information, either they're overeager, like people have pointed out in Jodi's case, where she's so overeager to share that it's odd. So you want to keep them sharing until they overshare and create that inconsistency that you can then revisit.
Yeah.
Either way, it was well done.
Yes,
Freaked out of her mind, right?
yes.
I have no further questions.
Redirect.
Sir, with regard to this issue of techniques, you were asked about that on your cross-examination. How those techniques work out for you during this interview?
Not very well.
Why do you say that they didn't work out very well for you?
I never got the truth.
What are you talking about?
She never really told me the truth about
Well, what did she tell you initially? That was she there or not?
No,
Is that the truth?
no, it was not.
She also told you a story about two people doing it. Is that the same story as the one that she told you before?
No, that was a completely different story.
And she was there on this one, right? On the second one she told you, right?
Yes,
And is that what she has, is that the story that she has kept to, or is there a different story now?
it's a different story now. She says she was there and she did it.
So again, these techniques that you're using, tell me a little bit more about your training on these techniques?
Approximately 40, 50 hours of training for interview interrogation.
And with regard to these techniques that you used, in this case, given what you know that she now says she did it, did they work at all?
No, not really.
When you say not really, it implies that they did. How did they work? You tell me how they work.
Well, there were some truths in there, but the majority of it,
And some
It's
truths you
false.
don't know which is true and which isn't, right? Do you?
no, I don't.
She told you in the second interview that the shot was first, right?
Yes,
And she told you that the shot was first and that the shot was first by somebody else, not her, right?
yes, correct.
And you indicated to me just now, well, there was some truth to it.
This is
that
the
something that you
prosecution.
believed at the time that she told you that the shot was first?
Yes, I actually did believe that.
Yeah,
And
he's
is that
overly
the
aggressive
position
with his
that you
own witness.
adopted after
Yeah.
she told you that?
But he's consistent with
Is
it.
that your position that you had when you spoke to Dr. Kevin Horn in anticipation of whatever hearing you were going to have?
Objection is beyond scope.
Yeah, this is the
Overruled.
state's witness.
Yes, I maintain that belief.
And when you spoke to him, did you speak to him about what your belief was at that time when you spoke to Dr. Horn?
No, not really.
And did you speak about that you believed, Dr. Horn, that you believed based on a conversation with the defendant and on your techniques that you thought the shot was first?
I didn't have that conversation with Dr. Horn.
And when you testified the day after, were you testifying based, at least in part, on what the defendant told you as to what came first?
Yes,
And that was what? What did she tell you came first?
that the shot came first.
She also did tell you other things, that there was blood and that sort of thing, right?
Yes,
You were asked about this issue about whether or not you believe that she was out of control, she was a cold-blooded murderer, did something she didn't want to. Is that what you believe, or is that something that you use to try to perhaps get at the truth in this case?
Objection is irrelevant to what the detective believes.
Rephrase.
Why did you use those phrases, sir?
it was part of my technique to try to figure out what happened.
You were asked about whether or not you went on 48 hours. Do you remember that?
Yes,
And you were asked about having spoken to them, right?
yes,
And you were asked about whether or not there was a technique that was involved with regard to 48 hours, right?
yes,
You've also viewed other interviews of people that gave interviews to 48 hours, right?
yes, I have.
Objection is beyond scope and relevance.
Approved.
I mean, he's I mean, you're right. He's highly aggressive in the courtroom, but he is like he's laser sharp. You know, like he's coming at his witness to prove a point.
Mm.
And even though he is aggressive, he's not slimy. You know, he's like you know like a trained German Shepherd, right? He's going for the target, going for it, and he knows what he's doing, and that's there is a difference. He's not dodgy, and he's not just trying to yell for the sake of yelling. He is very specifically
Yeah.
tearing down the defense and making sure he gets his point across, and he's doing a good job.
Yeah. And yes, Olayan, Juan does this entire trial alone with no second chair. Sometimes he has a person sitting there, but that's just for show. The entirety of this trial is Juan's show, or however you pronounce it. Thank you. Yeah. And they are approaching.
Yes, we have dogs, by the way. Somebody asked that earlier. We have dogs. I try not to refer to him as a pit bull. I know that's like the common phrase, but most pit bulls that I've met are very sweet.
As long as you know how to handle that breed, and don't subject them to people who have no idea how to handle dogs. My cousin has two rescue pitties. So, but they have the entire well, the house and everything is enclosed, so the dogs can't. They they really can't get out.
Yeah.
Because as she says, they are rescued. We don't know what happened the first 2 years of their life.
Yeah.
And we don't know what can come up. So as a safety measure, they enclosed the entire house and lawn and everything. I'm going there in about 5 weeks, 6 weeks. So I will post pictures of these. They're very, very sweet dogs, at least to me. A bit jumpy, but yeah, I'm a big dude, and sometimes they join me in the spare room, and it's quite. It gets warm when both of them are in bed. Just
Yeah.
saying.
I have a buddy with a pitty that he rescued, and you play tug of war with it, and you could spin the dog in circles like airborne, because they latch on so tight. Just I mean, lovable dog. Don't get me wrong, but he had a hell of a bite. Salvador commented that he had a German Shepherd growing up. He always seemed like more of a cat person. Anyway,
yeah, we all know about it. That Branca has opinions about pitties, and in some case I kind of agree with him, but in other no. Yeah, pit bulls in the wrong hands are extremely dangerous.
Yeah, they can be trained to bite and kill. They have a very powerful jaw. So, and they've got a weird muscle reflex when they start to bite, that they actually bite harder. So they're more likely to do more damage just physiologically. But it's they're still dogs like all other dogs.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get. That's a long sidebar.
Was the judge talking to him about yelling at his own witness? Juan, let's take it down a notch. He's your witness.
Yes.
Interview between the defendant and 48 hours, correct?
Yes.
And with regard to the story that she gave there, did it differ from the second story that she gave you in huge amounts, the story that she gave you on July 16th of 2008?
The second story?
Yes, the second story.
No, not much at all.
You were asked about the July 16th, 2008 statement that she gave you about who was the aggressor, whether or not the female was the aggressor and that sort of thing. Do you remember that line of questioning?
Yes.
With regard to what she told you, did she ever tell you that somebody held a gun to her head during this interlude or during this incident?
Yes.
Who did she say put the gun to her head?
The male.
And what did the male do with regard to the gun after he put it to her head?
Let her go eventually.
And with regard to, did she ever tell you of anybody looking in her purse? Did she ever discuss that with you during that interview?
Yes.
And what did she say with regard to who was the person that actually looked in her purse?
The male.
So in terms of this case, did she ever say who did the shooting? Did she ever tell you if she saw who actually, in her story, who did the shooting or who shot Mr. Alexander?
No.
And this is the same person, this story about who's the aggressor. Was this the same person that told you that previously she wasn't there?
Yes.
I don't have anything else.
Anything else, Mr. Herman?
I do, Your Honor. These 48-hour interviews of Miss Arias, you seem to have a pretty good memory of them. Is that correct?
Somewhat.
Okay. The interviewer didn't ask all the same questions you did she?
I wasn't there. I don't know. I only saw what was captured on camera.
You saw what was on camera, okay. as far as what was captured on camera, did the interviewer use the exact same script that you did?
No.
No. She asked more questions, right? Different questions.
Yes.
She asked Miss Arias, she said that this looked like a classic case of domestic violence, didn't she?
I don't recall that
You
one.
don't recall that one? Okay, I'm gonna see if you recall questions about Mr. Alexander being abusive towards Miss Arias. Do you recall the interviewer asking her about that?
No, I don't.
Okay. And as it relates to Miss Arias, I'm gonna guess you don't remember, but is Miss Arias being Mr. Alexander's booty call? You don't remember that, or do you?
That somewhat, yes, I do.
That's somewhat familiar, okay. And that they discussed the idea that Mr. Alexander would call her late at night requesting sexual favors. Do you remember that being discussed?
No, I don't remember that.
Don't remember that either. Okay. A moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Again, this attorney in these I don't recall interludes, he's not pushing the refreshing his recollection or anything. He's kind of letting the point fall flat. He really could push a little bit harder to try and push this witness.
Just transcripts does
You
this reflect?
told CBS that you thought this
Yeah.
was a crime of passion, correct?
No, I don't
No.
remember that. No.
You also told them that something happened and
But show
just
it,
snapped, things got out
counselor.
of
Show
control,
it.
right?
Don't you say it.
I
Exactly.
remember saying things got out of control, but I don't
Every
remember
time
the
he says
actual
I don't
context.
recall, you've got him in
Okay.
a potential
That's all I have for
misrepresentation
now.
of fact, and then you
Anything
can
else,
refresh his
Counselor?
memory
Anything
or drop
With
it on the
regard to
jury.
those
I
comments that you may have made, were those comments based in part on what the defendant told you?
Yes, they were.
Or anything else?
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
the I don't recall is always a convenient out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The for people that take the stand regularly, especially this police officer who's, as he said, been part of potentially thousands of interrogations or interviews. For him to say I don't recall, it's an easy out of answering the question, and he knows it. So as a defense attorney, I mean, he really should have been locked and loaded with more information to come at him and say, these are the transcripts, and then push the topic with him about what he did or did not say. If the defense attorney had reason to believe that he had made statements of fact on whether or not he believed it was a crime of passion or anything else, he should have been armed with that information to bring it back to him.
Yeah, I agree.
Gentlemen, I have some questions from you. Looks like we have another question.
Yeah, there are jury questions
Any other
in this part.
questions for this witness? Counsel, please approach.
And that is a very good practice, in my opinion, because both the prosecutor and the defense can use that to see where the trial is going.
I mean, that's true. And it gives more clarity to the jury to prevent the jury from being confused as you move forward in the trial.
Yeah. For instance, if they ask a question, please clarify this, then okay. Then the witness can clarify, and then both the defense and the prosecutor can ask follow-up questions on it.
All right, Detective, the jurors have some questions for you. Were there any sets of knives that appeared to be missing a knife?
No, we didn't find anything like that.
Was the gun that was used to kill Mr. Alexander found in Miss Arias' possession?
No, it was not.
Why were the fibers found at the scene, sandals and pillows, not sent out to compare them?
We didn't feel it was necessary at that time.
When you personally interviewed Mr. Alexander's roommates, was there ever a mention of their concern for his extended absence, June 4 through June 9?
No, they believed he was in Mexico already. They didn't know his schedule.
Yeah, and this is one of the weirdest part of this trial. Both roommates and nobody noticed a decomposing body. That is the most weird thing in this trial.
I mean, you would have to wait for the smell to hit, and I'm assuming that the air conditioning was on. So,
Mm.
you know, and then when does the smell really come out of the bedroom, right? Because he was
Mm.
in his own bedroom suite, right? So,
Mm.
maybe they just thought
Mm.
that he was out or
Mm.
whatever and didn't
Yeah.
go to open his door to investigate his stuff. But
Mm.
you know,
Yeah, but
it's hard to say.
that door has to have been really, really sealed, because there were a lot of blood in, more or less in the bathroom, in the hallway. It was
It
to
was like
compare with
it was a master
your
suite.
yeah, it was a master suite. There was, to compare with your brother's trial. I said this in a previous. I stopped at a crime scene photo, said, "This is how you see a person has bled out.
Hmm.
This is the amount of blood that is required for a person." And I will later on just put the two pictures, the one from Junior's apartment and from Alexander's room, just to show this. Now tell me that Junior provably was dead,
I mean,
because it is a vast difference.
they, like you said, I mean, poor Travis is nearly oh my god, decapitated.
Mm.
See, the English language escapes me sometimes too. But so with that much,
Mm.
damage to vascular tissue,
Mm. Yeah.
there's going to be quite a bit of blood, but
Mm.
there's no evidence, presented that they knew exactly how much damage was done to Rosalio. So, um,
Mm.
but yeah, it's there
Mm.
was a lot of blood, but it was in the back of the master suite, right? So
Mm.
it wasn't like right next to the door where you would be walking in and out of the bedroom,
Um,
because the bathroom was on the back side. Am I wrong?
yeah, but it was blood all the way out to the bedroom. You could see a semicircle around that hallway from the bathroom out,
Hmm.
and it was a vast amount of blood. So maybe blood in that amount has a tendency to fill the air with a metallic taste.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I'm just, so everything combined, I'm just not, because sadly I do know, once you've smelled it, you you sadly you remember it, because there's no other smell like it, blood and decomposition. So
How many
that's
days did Travis sit before he was found?
the 5 days, I believe. And since he had a lot of cuts and everything, there was no really for sometimes gas and stuff are trapped in a body.
Mhm.
Nothing was trapped in. There were too many holes in him. Um, uh, yeah, I just find it very strange that for 5 days. Yeah.
5 days is a lot of days.
Mm.
And I mean, the blood that was probably in the hallway and into the master, because the roommates were gone still for a couple of days after
Mm.
the murder,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it had a chance to dry, so maybe it was less odorous because she left the body in the bathroom in the tub, right?
Yeah. In the shower, yes.
In the shower, yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Maybe I just find it strange, because I believe that once her Travis friends showed up. Now the chat might what's the word? It's contagious. Losing the English language.
Are they gonna disagree with you, or are they gonna what?
I don't know. That I lost my trail of thought. I might come back to it, but let's continue with the trial.
What were the alibis given by those roommates?
Oh, good
One was
question.
working and the other was actually staying at his girlfriend's home, and they were house sitting for her parents.
Did Mr. Alexander have a boarder or another person living in the house?
No, just the two roommates.
Were the fingerprints of the boarder taken to see if they matched any at the scene?
Yes, they were.
I like that he
With
gives
regard to the
succinct
knife
answers.
or gun?
Sorry, what did you say?
I like that he gives succinct answers. You know, the
Mm.
detective with the jury questions, he doesn't mess around. He doesn't beat around the bush. It's yes, this is exactly the answer to the question. He's not trying to mislead. He's very he's very to the point with all the questions that the jury asks, and it's I mean, honestly, he's a very good witness.
Mm.
Was Mr. Alexander's old BMW searched?
No, it was not.
These are good jury questions.
Mhm.
Any other questions from the
They are
jury?
searching for doubt.
Yep.
Follow up from the state.
No, those are excellent
Mr.
questions.
Nerman.
I do have a couple of questions. His roommates of Mr. Alexander's, I think you mentioned that the other day. Enrique Cortez, and I'm sorry, could you refresh my memory on the other one? Was it Zach Billings? Is that correct?
Yes, Zachary
Okay.
Billings.
And they were both living with Mr. Alexander at the time, right?
Yes.
And did your investigation reveal whether or not Mr. Billings or Mr. Cortez knew that Jodi Arias was coming for a visit?
They did not know she was coming for a visit.
And based on your investigation, did you obtain any knowledge that either Mr. Cortez or Mr. Billings were warned against this so-called dangerous stalker to call the cops if she showed up?
Objection, yes.
Overruled.
I had
Judge
no
is
such information.
on point as well.
Thank you.
Yep. The judge retired in 2021, and I think David is trying to get a hold of her. So it would be really, really interesting to, if she is able to or want to. She's having a great time being retired. She may be just, no, that's part of my life is gone. But I believe David would try to get a hold of her to at least ask the question if she will be willing to
Speak about it.
participate, speak about it. That
Is she like retired to politics? Did she retire to be an attorney again? I mean, is she just retired in general? Just done?
I believe she's retired. She
Oh, okay.
Detective, you may step down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take the evening recess at this time. Please be back in the designated area downstairs, meeting room A, at 10:25 tomorrow morning, and we will start promptly at 10:30. Please
and
remember
the
the
rest is
admonition. Have a nice evening.
discussions
You are excused.
without the jury present. So this will be really interesting because this is the part of the trials I really enjoy, to hear the back and forth.
No, I'm technically not married, but my partner is.
In David's chat, this is
Yeah,
in
well,
my
not
chat.
only is she in the chat, but she's also the love of my life. There's no question about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Good answer, Solomon. And truthful.
The jury has left the courtroom.
Thank you, Bas, for being a new member. I think you're a reoccurring member. As you know, there are members only stuff, and there is a Discord for you.
Is it bass
Link
or
is-
bass? Or
I
is
don't know.
Is it a bass bass?
Oh, the picture. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's good. That's good. Oh, I missed the picture. Oh, that's really good. I believe the handle Genitals has a competition of the best chat name. Yeah, let's see.
Ms. Wilmot, Mr. Nurmi, do you have any additional materials for me to review?
I do, Judge. We have 2 sets of transcripts in the copy center to review. I know earlier the state said they wanted to make a record, so once he's done doing that, we can bring them to the court. I'm assuming the court hasn't read everything else already, so if he wants to make his record, then we will submit those transcripts afterwards.
Did you want to make your record today or tomorrow?
I'd do it right now. I have it right
All
now.
right.
Get it done.
All right, let me just get my notes. You may proceed.
With regard to issue of the text messages, and I'm citing the transcript dated June 18th, 2010, before Judge Duncan, and the person that is testifying is Michael Melendez. And he was asked, amongst the items seized was a cell phone pocket PC, right? We've talked about that before. And he answered yes. The question was, okay, so you know to which item I'm referring to? And he answered, is that Mr. Alexander's phone? The answer was yes, and then he said yes. Question was, okay, you looked at that phone, you powered it on, correct? He answered yes. And did you or did you not find text messages on there? His answer, I did. Question, okay, you did, and the answer yes. Question, did you read those messages, the content, the verbiage? His answer was yes. Okay, and what do you recall of that, was the question. His answer, I don't have any recollection specifically. I know I did note some of them in my report. The answer, okay, were you able to download those messages from the cell phone pocket PC?
I posted the link to the Zachariah Anderson petition in David's chat as well. Just so it's on both channels.
He answered, I was not. He was asked, describe for us why you weren't.
Seriously? I am very far ahead in the buffering. Oh yeah, let's see here. freezachariahanderson.org also. You can go there. I just put up so people can see it. Nice. Thank you, DAV. Bell.
Able to do that. He said, at the time, I did not have any software that would give me the capability of doing that. And then he talks about it in other portions of this particular transcript, but it does indicate that this issue involving the text messages has already been discussed, and that Detective Melendez has already indicated that he was unable to download the text messages from Mr. Alexander's telephone because the technology or the software wasn't available. That's what he testified to. In the argument that was presented to you previously, after the person from Verizon.
Seriously? I have great internet. I have 40 megabits. So I don't know. This has to be something between StreamYard and Chrome. That it forks up a bit.
Testified. He and the person from Verizon, Jodi Citizen, indicated that they didn't keep these text messages other than 2 or 3 days. And defense counsel sort of saddled on that and said, well, see, they were there and the state just wouldn't turn them over to us. I would like to mark this as an exhibit and I'll have you read it. There's other references to this. It also talks about the email messages and what happened. And I ask that you consider that with regard to the present motion involving the text message. And I do have other issues.
All right. That document will be marked as an exhibit and admitted for purposes of the court ruling on the motion for mistrial.
It may be duplicitous. We're certainly not objecting to that. We do have the other testimony of this as well. And that's what we'll be furnishing to the court later. I can't recall the dates, the specific dates, but there were other hearings and we'll be providing those transcripts.
All right. Do you want further argument on this issue, this request for mistrial?
Judge, the only thing I would make note of as it relates to this in terms of misconduct, the prosecutor, when I raised this issue, went forward and said, oh, you know, I think that all Hispanic names must sound alike, implying I'm racist, that I'm being insincere about my efforts, or that I'm not very smart. Yeah, I think that's demonstrative of the idea that the emperor has no clothes here, Judge. There is contradictory testimony he's elicited. I'll let the transcripts speak for themselves. But I point those things out because that's an additional instances of misconduct that's inappropriate on the part of this prosecution and should not be tolerated by this court. And that's all I have to say on that. I do have one more record to make, and then we will be done.
Mr. Martinez?
Yesterday, defense counsel requested that an item that had been in the possession and available for the last, since approximately July of 2008 and available for inspection, be turned over to them. And this is the first request that was ever made. It involved Mesa Police Departmental item number 4022827, which is a camera. Ostensibly, it belonged to the defendant. It was seized from one of the homes that was searched up in Margarita, California. I had that marked as exhibit number 364. The request was made before lunch. The item was brought over during the lunch hour. I had it marked as exhibit number 364, and it was released to the defendant yesterday after their request. The other issue involves, there was a witness by the name of Gus Searcy that was just noticed. I think it was noticed either Monday or Tuesday, maybe Wednesday of this week. I know it's this week. I'm not asking for preclusion, but I'm asking for consideration. And that consideration is that he be made available in Phoenix for my interview during this hiatus that we will be taking. So I ask that he be ordered during the next week to be made available so that I can interview him.
Mr. Nurmi, do you wish to be heard on either of these matters?
Yes, the recitation of the facts regarding the camera, just for the record, is accurate. My expert picked it up from your clerk yesterday, I believe it was. As it relates to Mr. Searcy, for the reasons we've stated in ex parte, we believe that that would not be appropriate at this time.
The court will take the state's request to interview Mr. Searcy under advisement and will rule in the future on that request. Mr. Nurmi.
The only other issue I have is that yesterday we were given the understanding that the state would be calling Lisa Andrews. She was known as Andrews at the time. My understanding now is that her last name is Diodone. The information we have on her, at least in terms of her telephone number, is probably at least a year, if not more so old.
Don't be sorry for that. As all regulars can attest to, I prefer if you send the box to Sachs Defense Fund. I'm doing okay. You know, become a member.
So we were asking that the state provide us with that contact information and that any subpoena issued to her remain in effect.
Mr. Martinez?
She called me during the break, and I spoke to her. I will call her, and if she wants me to facilitate this contact, I will. If she wants to speak with the defense attorney directly, that's fine with me. I will take care of it today. I'll call her as soon as this is done. I don't know if the question was being asked, but just so that there is no question about it later, because memories fade, including mine. The reason I did not call her involves this issue of the stalking. I know that defense counsel spoke about stalking in opening statement. And I also know that Mimi Hall, or Marie Hall, spoke about it, saying that when she came to the door, she was speaking with her mother because she was afraid of a stalker. We never made any, or we never indicated that the stalker was the defendant. That information came from defense counsel in opening statement. Ms. Diodoni would have testified, and I'm concerned that.
Okay, David's getting a bit of cash. Ashley E., if you sign the petition today, you can be included in the raffle for a chance at a free Z swag. What's that? You're muted. Sound?
The baby was crying. Free Zechariah swag, the free Zechariah shirts.
Oh.
So that's what she's talking about. So they're doing
Okay.
a raffle for free Zechariah.
Yeah, that's great. And thank you for David. Thanks you for your $10 super chat. And then we have Lefty, who went over to David's. Farrell hopes whatever you buy with this $5 that oh, David's catch. That is so funny. There's roughly not many minutes. I did find an article about that is really interesting that I'd like to show before we take this. Let's see here. This is from the USA Today News around the time of when her appeal was denied. A national no murderer will stay behind bars despite the prosecutor's egregious misconduct during the trial, the Arizona Court of Appeals has ruled. The court ruled Tuesday that Jodi Arias, 39, so this was 2017 or something, will remain in prison for life for the 2008 first-degree murder of her sometime boyfriend Travis Alexander. But the court also stated that a pattern of intentional misconduct saturated the trial, and that it was referring Maricopa County Prosecutor Juan Martinez's behavior to the State Bar of Arizona, where Martinez is already facing formal ethics complaints on other matters. So, yeah, and apparently he resigned before he could be disbarred. So, here's the thing. All of these shenanigans will be outside of the jury, but some of it we can maybe pick up in these snippets. So yeah, but exactly what those were, I don't know. This will be for when we are done with the actual trial. Me and David will bring these things up and do follow-up comments on it and streams. And while I have you here, let's present something else. Friday the 28th. I'm doing Chat-Faced for charity. So book Friday the 28th. It It's $150 to Zachariah Anderson's defense fund, plus $50 to me so I can restock. Gives you the chance to see me absolutely plastered.
Totally chat-faced, as it turns out.
Yep.
And as far as I know, I should be around that night. So,
Yeah.
you know, I had another close friend pass away actually that I had heard this week. And I'm not sure when the memorial is, but as long as that memorial isn't on that evening, I should be able to be there.
Yeah. So sorry for your loss, and I hope they pull through. Family and friends need each other when something this bad happens. But yeah, so Chatfaced for charity, and Captain Have Fun has promised he will try to match me shot by shot.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, if it gets too hot in the kitchen and I'm there, maybe I'll take one for you. I think I've got some bottles of gin around here somewhere.
I might need David to have access so he can pull the plug at some point.
We don't want you to pull a Gosney with face on the keyboard, huh?
No. No. Yeah. Clong. Yeah. Yeah. Steve Gosney as much of a lightweight as David. But while Gosney gets drunk, David becomes white trash lady contacting manager drunk.
Oh man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think the last time that I was chat-faced, I picked up whom became Zach's girlfriend and spun her over my head and put her back into a bar stool. So, you know, it's been a while since I've been chat-faced.
No shame in being a lightweight. No, absolutely not. It's much cheaper to be a lightweight.
It sure is.
Getting drunk costs me a fortune here. But let's finish this.
Should there be a conviction? I'm not saying there's going to be. That an issue like that is so inflammatory that some court may say something to the effect that, well, the jury could have possibly considered this improper evidence of stalking in their decision and may have been inflamed under 401, 402, and 403. I know that the defendant has not moved in limine to do this, but this is more of a self-governing move on my part. What Ms. Diodoni would have testified, and what she told me about, was that she spent, it was December of 2007, that she spent some time with Mr. Alexander at her house. It was raining, and that when they were inside the house, there was a knock at the door, and they went outside to look. And this was during the time when the defendant was living in town. She went outside, and Mr. Alexander's tires were slashed. He then got them replaced the next day. He came back the next day, and and then again somebody came to the door. His tires were again slashed, and at some other point, maybe the next day, her tires were slashed. The tires on her car were slashed. When they were inside, after finding that her tires had been slashed, she was concerned that her safety was at risk, and she asked Mr. Alexander to spend the night with her. She would have testified that they did not have any sexual contact that night. But he did stay the night. The next day, and she remembers the date as December 8th of 2007, she received a letter from supposedly the stalker, but it came from a John Doe accusing her of a number of religiously based sins, such as you're an unworthy whore, things like that. And so my view is that if I introduce that type of evidence, or somehow that finds itself into the record, there is a strong potential, in my view, that somebody who may review these proceedings would find that the conviction may have been tainted under 401, 402, or 403. So that's the reason why I chose not to call her. I just don't want to run that risk.
Right.
Your Honor, I believe the state's so-called concern is ultimately disingenuous because a review of the evidence will show, first of all, I don't need the advice from him. And there is exculpatory evidence. We've also, that Ms. Andrews or Diodoni has to offer. She was dating Mr. Alexander at the same time that he was sleeping with my client. The other issue is that there has been evidence of her as a quote-unquote stalker that the state has elicited. So I believe it's disingenuous. I believe I'm within my, he's basically trying to imply that there'll be an IAC claim somewhere down the road. Let the chips fall where they may, but strategically, we believe the position is that calling her as a witness is appropriate, and we intend to do so. So I don't know if he's asking for preclusion or what exactly the state's motion is, but we fully intend to do it and request the information.
I'm not asking for any relief. I'm just sort of indicating for the record why I'm not sure it's a good idea that she be called. All he needs to do is to give me a date and time, and I will inform her of the date and time that she needs to be here. I know that that may not be something that he can do right now, but I will call her, I will speak to her today, and I will indicate to her that she is still under the admonition and that she is not to watch anything, not to do anything with regard to, or speak to anybody with regard to this case, and that she is going to be asked to come down and testify. I will say that she has been reluctant about testifying, and that's the reason why I indicated that I would act as an intermediary. If they don't want me to do that, I'm fine, but I will make a call to let her know that she probably will be contacted in the future. But if they want me to do it, I'll do it.
She is under subpoena.
She is under subpoena.
All right, then I will order that the subpoena remain in effect. All right,
Our contact information be provided to us.
Sure.
yes, and he will do that today.
I will do that. I will give her address. I'll call her today.
All right. Anything else for the record today?
No.
Yeah, so this is one of the things that the prosecutions up until this point avoided to give contact information to witnesses so the defense could interview them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is shady. In the trial itself, once the jury is in, is very cordial. But you can hear that the defense attorney does not like the prosecutor.
Oh, yeah.
But then again, he didn't like his client either. He tried to be excused from this case on numerous occasions and wasn't allowed to.
Yeah, the defense attorney and the prosecutor do not like each other. I think the prosecutor's better at hiding it, but yeah, there's tension between them. I think that there was subtle shade thrown in, between John and Gravely, during Zach's case. It's supposed to be still. There's still supposed to be some decorum. They're supposed to maintain some professional respect or sexual tension, if you will, in the courtroom. Just that even if they don't like each other, they have to maintain respectful discourse.
Yeah. There's a few minutes left here. Let's see if there's anything. We are past 2 hours.
We sure are.
All right. So ordered.
And will the court be, once we come up with the transcripts, will the court still be unlocked, or would you like us to take them to Dr. Chambers.
You can bring them here and she'll bring them up to me.
Fair enough. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. We're adjourned.
Okay, that was day 8. Oh,
Indeed.
been told.
Fire pooping dragon.
Yep. Yeah, and this is the behind the curtain that we hear here, and that we then later found out that Juan Martinez would have been disbarred had he not been had he not resigned. And he did the so it is, as far as I understand, this was as close to be overturned as you possibly can get a trial. But the Court of Appeals still said no, it's not enough to overturn.
I mean, really, she was just pushing for a technicality, a loophole to try and overturn the trial. I mean, the evidence presented against her was exceedingly strong. I mean, there's very, very much a great deal of direct evidence that actually placed her in the crime scene, along with like we had talked about, the 3 different versions of her story that she told during multiple interrogations.
Yeah, and also that we don't really know, since it has been known exactly how much the defense attorney disliked. There may have been enough holes in the prosecution's case had she had correct representation and had the prosecution not been doing all these shady things in the background. We don't know. But as you said, the evidence in this case was overwhelming.
Yeah, very much, very much. Connecting her directly to the crime. That camera it really just sealed the deal. For her. I don't know that a mistrial would have changed the outcome of this, regardless of who they brought in, because of what was found on that camera.
Yeah, I believe when they showed that picture to her, she actually said in the interview, "I have the same pair of pants at home." Yeah.
Yeah, like quoted directly. Like, I have a pair of pants just like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and one, lawyer up. 2, shut up. I mean, yeah, but the ninjas. Yeah.
The right to silence isn't just to protect the guilty, but anytime that you're getting interviewed by the police, the right to silence is your friend.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Solomon, for showing up. Much appreciated. It was 40 minutes more, so you might have to make it up to Jen. And thank you all in David's chat, in my chat, for showing up. The people on Rumble, thank you so much. The people on Facebook, thank you so much for showing up. I will redirect you all, or at least the YouTube stuff from my channel will go to David's channel. I think there's a few hours before that stream starts, so you can have a shower and the food and everything. And thank you for everybody who donates to Zachariah Anderson's defense fund, signs the petition. Go to freezachariahanderson.org and read about the actual evidence there are so much exculpatory evidence.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
We've been breaking down some of the testimony and providing some illustrated pieces that were not presented during the trial, but it's a breakdown and interpretation of what was testified to on maps and on pictures of properties, specifically Sadie's property and the map of the freeway, which is a very clear representation of what was testified during trial.
Mm.
So all of that's on the website tonight. I believe at 10:30 Eastern is David going over the Denny motion. He's discussing the Denny motion filed by the defense, the prosecution's response, and then a few of the other discussions
Mm.
or discussion worthy documents and legal discussions as it relates
Mm.
to the viability or whether or not Denny law is truly constitutional.
Mm.
It should be an interesting stream.
Mm.
This is going to be the stream where David finally proves that he's a lawyer.
Yep.
So so yeah, that should be
Mm.
tonight.
Mm.
In about 9 hours or so.
Mm.
Is David's or 8 hours or so when David goes live with that, I believe. So David, if
Mm.
I'm misrepresenting you, please correct me. But it should be a good stream for all
Mm.
of you that were outraged by the Denny evidence or the Denny
Mm.
motion announcement. You should tune in. Make
Mm.
sure that you set a reminder and come back for David's stream later today.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Thank you all for showing up. I will be sending you off with the same 1-minute video that you see in the beginning. Thank you all for showing up. Bye bye.